Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks very much for joining me for another Tech Talk. And tonight we're joined by Ambit co-founder and CEO Tim Warren. We're going to talk about AI tonight. And this is Ambit's an AI conversation platform that powers chatbots for customer service. So Ambit's platform is designed for scale and rapid delivery. So it empowers businesses to move faster and smarter, delivering the insights needed to make quick business decisions based on customer inquiries. So top brands that you will know very well, such as the Warehouse Group, Noel Leeming, Tower Insurance, and Vodafone, as it was, have each utilised Ambit's enterprise solution to help drive revenue, improve agent efficiency, and increase customer satisfaction. So it's all about the customer. And tonight, thank you for joining us, Tim.
Thank you.
So, Tim, you are the co-founder and CEO of Ambit. Can you just start off with some background on yourself and previous experience working within the tech space?
Yeah, sure. Well, I studied computer science. I actually did something that was, when I studied it, a really new field. And I was very fortunate enough to start working with a friend at the outset of the internet in the late 90s. And from there, built an amazing company. And in my early 20s and going through my 20s, had this software exposure at a global scale, which was a fantastic opportunity. And I think I was one of the first people to have this opportunity to export in the weightless economy out of New Zealand, which is so important. And when I explained, or I tried to explain what I did, most people simply couldn't understand it. They could understand logs and milk powder, but not so much code that we were selling. So that was my 20s. And then I worked in investment banking. So I worked at Goldman Sachs and then JB Ware through the next decade, including getting to enjoy the global financial crisis, etc. And then I felt like getting back into tech. And that's the background of how I ended up back in technology.
So what actually drove you with the inception of Ambit, apart from the fact that you had the global financial crisis and you thought tech sounds fun?
Yeah, well, it was a number of years later, and I'd been through, and I'd done some consulting, and I'd done some other bits and pieces here, and I felt I had something left to do, which was back in technology, and it was ensuring that I was again leading this technology, being at the forefront, and that's that's when Ambit kicked off with what I'd call kind of a brains trust, or a group of 5 or 6 people that would get together semi-regularly, and we brainstormed ideas. And when we got down to just a few ideas, we then did early business cases and business studies for what those might look like. And we went out and we talked to potential customers. And we got to the end of 2016, the beginning of 2017, and by that time there was 3 of us left. And we looked around and we said, "Are we going to do this?" Yep, we're going to do this. So we funded it, we put in money, we registered the company on the 2nd of April. Not the 1st, and yeah, the rest is history. That's when we started hiring and building.
So in terms of the chatbot and the powering of the chatbot on the conversational platform, so if anyone is watching saying, "What's this chatbot thing?" Well, it's if you go into websites and there's ask me some questions or those sorts of things. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, that's right. It normally sits down here on the little bottom part of your screen. And it'll pop up and say hi, and can I help you? And there's a range of different levels of, call that conversation or chat with a company. Sometimes it is a person on the other end, and sometimes it's a thing that gives you a couple of options, like maybe menu items 1, 2, and 3, etc. But other times, which is what we're talking about and what we do, is where you understand what people ask. They type a question just like through text, through a message, and it understands that and then responds to their need. But that response can be anything and everything to do with that company. So let's talk about retail. If you're a retail company, say that you are Torpedo 7 and someone wants to buy an orange kayak, then you go to the chatbot, you type in, "Hey, I want to buy an orange kayak," and it'll pop up with some options, and it'll, say, "Whereabouts are you?" It will detect your location and say, "Would you like to look at some other options?" Or you can add it to your cart. Once you've added that to your cart and bought it, you can actually ask it to find out, where is my parcel, when's it arriving, all of the things that you'd normally do with a human agent, you can do it with an AI piece of technology.
Well, I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? And I think we just end up taking it for granted. It's another way of actually making our customer service significantly more attractive rather than thinking what's happened to my parcel.
Yeah, well,
You don't
one
know.
of the first, yeah, absolutely. Well, the number one question for most retailers that actually ship stuff online is where's my parcel? But that ties up an extraordinary amount of time, and it's usually this, excuse me, it's usually this negative value demand, as in it's not saying, can I buy another kayak, which adds value to the company. It's just time and materials and
Yes.
resources it's taking up. So we talk about augmenting the people. You've got really good people who are helping on that service line. They can help upsell. They can do a better job and deliver an excellent customer service. But if you've got that line tied up by lots of people asking, where's my kayak? Of course, I'm sure that Torpedo 7 or New Zealand Post, another one of our customers, is going to shift that really quickly. Even if they know it's going to be in 3 days, they still ask about it every day. You know why? They're really excited by it.
No, I know so many of us, obviously not you and me, but probably you and me, really enjoy that instant gratification of
Mm.
of the delivery of the parcel that you've been waiting for.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's right.
so I get that. So, what are some of the key features of Ambit chatbots? What's special about Ambit?
Yeah, so what we do is conversational AI chatbots, but actually we can have any conversation. So what that means is if we're talking to an insurance company, we can have a great discussion about a claim. In fact, I just had some news that my claim from the Auckland floods in January has just been approved, and I'm thinking along the way, if I'd been able to interact with a digital employee, I could have exchanged those personal questions, details about my claim that would have been good to. I just need a response. I didn't need much detail. Every single step along the way, I believe, could have been automated. So what's special about Ambit? So we can really understand what people are saying. We've got good, call it databases, but it's a bit different to that. Good lists of pre-training, so we understand what people are going to say. So we work really well in retail, utilities, financial services, and a few others. Across those areas, we have a really good understanding of what people are going to say and need, and then we can integrate into just about any system to go off and achieve that. Now, one of the best things is that people don't have to wait. But alongside that, one of the things we do allow is that people can have a really kind of personal interaction, but it's fun. It can be entertaining. So you can have animation, you can show videos, you can even play. Funnily enough, you can even play music in the background while you're talking to people, etc. So what we do really well is have excellent natural language conversations. So we always tell people you're talking to a chatbot here, but they don't have to know. And eventually they just accept that they are using the chat and they don't care if it's a person or if it's automation.
People just want great customer service, don't they?
They want great customer service. And one of the things that they can do on our platform is they can have it in any language they want. And they can any language, just about any dialect, at any time of day or night. And that's what's really special. It's pretty tough for humans on a 2 a.m. shift on a Sunday. But automation doesn't sleep. It's 24/7. And if you train it well, then as with many customers, you can service 40%, up to often 40% of your customer service inquiries are after hours when you wouldn't normally have people available.
So that's a really good point, and I think also another great asset is that ability to switch or to use languages that
Mm,
people who are buying might be able, do understand, but maybe not many other people who are the staff and the sellers are going to be able to understand. So that's a
that's right.
really good asset, isn't it? So but there must be times though when you need a human intervention,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
so can bots rather detect when an inquiry online might just require that human
Mm.
touch?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the subtleties that it's hard to get right, which is why a lot of systems don't do that. But that's something we looked at and we delivered very early on. We were working with Hallenstein Glassons. It's a great New Zealand brand. And early on, they said to us, you know what, we want our agents to be able to jump in there. And so we created that for them in 2018, I believe it was. And what that meant is that we can do a couple of things. So we can detect if something's going wrong, which could be that the person's getting grumpy. If they shout at us or swear, we know. This is AI. We know a lot about what's going on, and we don't mind. Of course, we're a chatbot. We don't get too upset, but we can let a person know that maybe it's time to jump in. We can also offer that. So, hey, let us know if you want to talk to a human. And if they ask, then we can also connect them. Now, that relies on having people available. But when you're moving maybe 80% of your volume to automation, that means that people have got time to do excellent customer service. And you'll look back on this and you'll say, oh, we mentioned the customer in every 35 seconds or something. And that's right. It's about providing that customer experience. And it's about providing the channels that people want to have without saying, you know what, you have to do this. You have to use a website. You have to use the phone. Give people choice and they will choose what they want to do.
And I think many government services and could be actually automated in this way, well, with chatbots, because it's just so important. We have the same questions
Right.
over and over again. So tell me, so who is the platform designed for? Who in particular?
It's very much designed for large and enterprise companies in New Zealand and the rest of the world. So our typical companies are Vector, Tower Insurance, the various companies in the warehouse group. But we also work, and you asked about government, we work with ACC, and that's one of the largest organisations in the country, and it works very well for them. So you can imagine the use cases here, IRD, like what tax do I owe, or how can I become compliant? Do I owe? Do I need to submit a return? All that kind of thing can be done, and this is where there's an opportunity for uptake, and I believe a real leadership. ACC really led in 2018 by engaging ourselves, but also other really cutting-edge technologies to do a great job to ensure. And they work with almost every New Zealander over time, directly or indirectly. So they do a very good job. One of the interesting things is we talked about language before. Pardon me. There's an opportunity here for government departments to take a real leadership across Te Reo, where they can build it in as a natural language into the system, and all of our systems. They support that, and the question is, do they want to be leading? I've seen quite a few road signs popping up, and I think that's been in the media recently. Well, how about across other government services? Wouldn't that be a good place to encourage the language through natural language?
Well, I think one of the things that people always need to remember is that when we're communicating, that we need to have people able to understand us. And I think that's the big opportunity around either Te Reo or other languages as well, is to
That's right.
use AI to be able to produce that. But at the same time, it shouldn't be instead of English, which is obviously the main
That's
spoken
right.
language in the country.
So we can
yeah.
have that. We can have that, that English landscape. And someone, you asked who is it for, someone who's working on the system or the conversation maybe speaks English, but our system will translate two ways. So you can have an operator in English and then someone asking a question in Te Reo, or a blend. We
Exactly.
don't mind, and we can translate.
Exactly. And it makes this brings across or up really so many opportunities to better engage with people in the way that they want to be engaged with. So with the plugin architecture allowing clients to integrate the chatbots into their current systems, that's something that people want to know about. How does that actually work?
Yeah, so the idea here is that modern software, and this is tech talk, so we can use a few technical details. So modern software has APIs, which is ways of just connecting different things to each other, right, and getting data. So if you've got modern systems, and maybe you're Pulse Energy, another New Zealand a customer of ours, and you want customers to be able to access their account details. So we can do that with our plugin architecture, connecting into that part of their tech stack. But it could be anything. So it could be Salesforce or Zendesk or something else. And you've got an option here to be able to connect into all of we call it a composable tech stack. So all of the different parts of your technical stack be able to gather data from it, and think of it like the person in your company that knows a whole lot about a whole lot of things. Maybe they've been there for quite some time and they've got a really good understanding of how things work. Or we're the conversational version of that can tap into any system, and it could be in New Zealand. It could also be overseas. It could be a remote instance of Salesforce. It could be some kind of resource that they need access to, or maybe credit card processing, or whatever it might be. When you've got a configurable and an open system, as ours is, and typically, I think good, recently developed New Zealand software is very good at this.
Yeah. Okay, so are you able to tell us just roughly how many clients are currently operating with Ambit chatbots, or is that secret?
No, absolutely. We've got about 30 brands across New Zealand, Australia, and Canada, and so a real growth focus for us is in Australia. So we're looking to bring in customers from there. And good news is that we do have some there. Thankfully, they're all international brands. So Dermalogica is a brand you'd know. Volkswagen in Australia we've also signed. So really great brands that we're very excited to work with.
Well, that's wonderful. And so how can people are interested in Ambit's platform? How would they get in touch with you, Tim?
Well, Ambit AI is our website. That's a great place to come and learn about the platform. I always say, hey, if you want to connect and learn more, connect to me. And LinkedIn is where I spend much of my day. So find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find. I'm usually wearing an orange shirt or something like that. So find me on LinkedIn and yeah, connect with me. And I'm always happy to talk.
Oh, that's great. So AI and ChatGPT in general, we know these technologies are moving at pace, and I love to say to people when they talk about AI and they're a bit worried about it, how did they get from one place to the other in their car? Did they use a map system? Did they bring out the paper map? Did they just think they might go this way, or did they put in an address and then ask the system to tell them how to get there fastest and tell them about the road conditions? And normally it's the latter. So people are using AI all the time, online shopping. I find it amazing going online shopping and finding suggestions coming up based on my previous purchase history. Well, these are the sorts of things that a good salesperson who knows their customer would probably offer. But what you're getting is everyone has their own assistant who can help them based on their shopping record. So these are great. But these systems are, do you think people in New Zealand and elsewhere quite understand how this is now ubiquitous right across just about everything that we do in terms of interactions? And how prepared are we for this?
The short answer is no. Very few people that I meet actually understand how prevalent and how much progress has been made in this area, and it is. I think it's essential for people to be able to get ahead of the curve. I always say, I've got this phrase which is, you don't know AI. AI has been there, like you pointed out, in many ways, and usually something's called. It's always got a fancy name until it's just normal. So you remember when on-dash sat nav systems came out? People, oh, it's just magic, and then can you believe it's built into the car? Now, if you bought a car, even an inexpensive one, and it didn't have something built in or a phone, you'd be gobsmacked. And that's just normal. Well, I mean, one of my favorite examples is predictive text is the basics of artificial intelligence. It's just using statistics to guess what your next word might be. And you can write some usually quite good and sometimes very entertaining messages just using that. Normally there's a little bit of human in the loop, but that's you and me, to help get the best message, but it really does help. So what's happened recently, I think, is that we've gone from something where it has clearly been a tool on the side that is helping people a bit, and it's very noticeable as being over there, to being something that is massive and ubiquitous and extraordinarily powerful. And one of the things I say is, if you don't worry about AI, it probably means you don't know enough about it. So I find there's a kind of a worry curve. There's people that know not very much and they worry about it because they think it's bad magic. And then there's people who know they think they know quite a bit. They probably describe themselves as experts, which I think is a terrible term. And they're not worried, and you really need to be worried about them. And then there's the people like Sam Altman who really know what they're doing, and they're worried. And those people there are looking to bring in high quality AI tools, high quality regulation, and they're stimulating discussion. I can tell you what happened at some stage. I can't tell you exactly when, but what happened at some stage, the people working on these tools, a lot of American companies, as other companies as well, started testing things and were blown away by the outcomes, because there is a gap where we've moved from straight taught examples of what can be done to emergent capability, which is where it can do something often quite well that has never been taught. And language is one of those. If you teach something, just say, if you train it on Wikipedia and you think, I'm going to train it on English, it's going to learn German and French and Spanish and all of the other languages that I personally cannot speak, because it's there on Wikipedia. So that is an emergent capability that came simply because it was given lots of input data. And you mentioned that before, didn't you? Which is, what do we do with our data? That's a really important question. I think the Office of the Privacy Commissioner will be really busy at the moment, I would imagine.
And I think that's one of the things that people want. They want to own their own data. And I think they definitely don't want their data being misused against them. I don't think most people are relatively happy to have their data being used for them to help their customer experience, but they're not happy if it's being used and sold against them. And I think that's the point, really, is it's the ethical use of AI that's so important. But we also need to be aware that there are opportunities for the bad actors out there, particularly who do not have the best customer service in mind. That are the people who are actually trying to disrupt or undertake cyber attacks, or to disrupt people's lives, or to steal from them even. So
absolutely,
it's not that AI is bad. It's that AI is a massive tool, which we don't. Even you probably would think, well, you just don't know what the potential. I mean, it's enormous potential, don't we? Are there limits to it? And the answer is possibly no. So what we do need to, though, is look at how humans use it and misuse it.
That's the critical thing here, right? There's no one thing that stands alone. You can't separate. Just earlier we were saying, humans working with the artificial intelligence, for customer service, it's a fairly benign, actually really helpful kind of a use case. But it's always going to be, and it's going to be best when there are humans working with AI. Then the way I describe it, you don't get 5 plus 5, you get 5 times 5, right? So you get a much better output. Now, when you take the human out of the loop, that's when I start to worry, because if you're creating artificial intelligence, and I think we don't understand our own brains very well. So I think it's already bad to take the thing that we do understand the best, although not very well, and then try and replace it. So we're trying to build something that we don't even understand. And I think that's a slightly dangerous place to be. The thing to do is to ensure that talk about the actors. I call them the white hat, the grey hat, and the black hat actors. The white hat actors are really trying to do the right things. Then all of a sudden, the commercial people, and they're wearing a kind of a grey hat. It's legal, but you never know what's going to be happening. And you get served a different color kayak, or the right thing maybe in your shopping cart. And then you go to the black hat actors, and they're using it for spam. I've already seen some AI spam turning up. And it's going to be used for, the most incredibly sophisticated scams, bank scams, etc., can be achieved now with AI. But this is the risk. The risk is that it's only 2 or 3 cents worth of CPU or AI time to try and scam a person. So let's just run it for, $1 million worth, or call it $100 worth, and maybe you've captured 100,000 people. And if 5 of them fall for it, and you get $5,000 per person, then that thing is going to pay for itself. So that's where the danger lies. And my recommendation to people, anyone listening to here, would be, let's make sure that the center of AI is in countries and areas where we have a really good understanding and belief in the morals and ethics of that regulated area. So I've got a great belief in New Zealand and homegrown technologies. That's obviously what we do. We have a working relationship with our customers that would completely preclude us from ever making the wrong ethical decisions. But I can't say that for a nameless, faceless company overseas. I would prefer that people work with trusted parties.
And I think too, Tim, that brings us to the point around the rule of law and having a very non-corrupt or uncorrupted system in terms of property rights, copyright, all those sorts of issues. But I think that's why we ended up with such a good result on some of the data privacy rules last year across Parliament. Is people want the right things for us, and they don't want people misusing it. So, just for our listeners and for me, because even though you don't like the term expert, you are more expert than many in AI. I want you to tell us what you see as the future of AI.
So, well, you mentioned it before, which is it's relatively uncontained. You can just about point at anything and find a very comprehensive use case. And one of the things I often do is talk to industry groups, and I ask them, who's heard of AI? Most hands go up. Who's tried it? A few hands go up. Who's going to be impacted by it? Hardly any hands go up. And I said, well, let me trigger you here a little bit, and I'll put a few things up on screen, and usually I can do it without words. And one of the things I talk about, for instance, is bias in AI, which is a really good one to start with because it's a global, universal thing. People immediately they're on board with it. So I've been asked to present at a medical conference about AI in medicine. So where's it going? To put a few specifically, put a few examples in there. So you mentioned opportunity in government. And I just think of that as large systems. So there's an opportunity for people to have data that's looked after and curated for them personally on their behalf in a private, secure, and safe environment. So if I could instantiate that a bit better, we can have better banking. We could have open banking. We could have AI-driven financial information where you imagine you run your lifetime's worth of financial data into systems, and then you've got someone who can advise you based on that. That technology is available today. What we need is the will from large organizations to pick that up and go with it. And then if we I look in employment, and so I've got 17-year-old twin boys, and they're great kids, but how confusing a time. Well, it would be confusing. Luckily, they're 17, so they know everything. But with a bit of hindsight, I can say what a confusing time to be coming into working out what to study. One of them said to me the other day, I'm going to study legal or law. I'm going to do legal stuff because it's not going to be impacted by AI. And I said, well, let me tell you. And of course, immediately he ran away because he doesn't want to know anything from his dad. But I'm literally building an AI-driven legal opinions writer that does the work of someone with up to 10 years of legal experience that can do 10 hours work in 3 to 4 seconds.
Yeah.
So is it coming? Yes. Now, the thing to do is don't fight it. You'll lose. Absolutely. Not in a Skynet kind of a way, but you're going to lose your job to someone who's good with it. And there are junior employees out there. I call them junior, but they won't be for long. Junior lawyers, junior accountants out there outperforming their seniors because they're using AI tools, and their seniors don't even know about it. So if you're not having this discussion at a board level, then you're not having the right discussion about the biggest disruptor, I think, of all time. It's going to be bigger than the internet. This is going to be bigger than the internet.
So we're going to have to finish up soon, but I would like to say to you, look, if you're on a board of directors, chairman of a board of directors, senior management, you've got to be into this, don't you? You've got to know what's happening. And you've got to be prepared for it. And you've got to be thinking, how can we make this useful for our customers? How can we make it so that we can give them a better service faster? Because everyone now is significantly more focused on needing everything instantly. We saw it, if I go back, basically around 30 years with emails. where suddenly
Absolutely.
nobody could ever say, I'm waiting for the letter in the mail or the checks in the mail even. And I mean, that really is really
I
aging.
remember, you'd remember
Yeah,
people saying, now, do you think we need a website? No one
I
asks that
absolutely,
anymore.
I absolutely, should we each have an email address in the law firm, or can we just have one? I mean, I know, I remember those conversations. So it is understanding it is here, and you might as well fight it as successfully as we would say fight that the sun rises in the morning and it goes down in the afternoon.
Yeah,
It's simply going to happen. But as you say, we need to have we need to have good rules, protections around them, and we need to be enabling the great outcomes for people.
that's right.
So thanks very much for joining me tonight. And I hope everyone's learning a little bit from this tonight, because I think this is a fascinating area and one that we should be embracing as a country, but embracing the
Mm.
right ways.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.